So we got drama everywhere in Formula One and Indy on Peacock. I don't know who saw that. Probably not many.
No, I was kind of busy. I was at a Brickyard 400 and we had some wildness happening there too. It was a crazy weekend in motorsports.
That and more on this edition of FR Racing's Garage Talk. Welcome to another episode of FR Racing's Garage Talk. I'm DJ Fluck.
I'm Erik Richardson.
This is episode 99. 99. Unbelievable.
Hard to believe.
We've sat down and done this 99 times, plus another 14 or 15 times for the weekend show, plus what, 6 or 7 live shows that we've done.
Yeah, and we may have to give it 1 week before we hit that number 100 because
Yeah,
I'll
you
be
got a
in
you got a
Florida.
pretty packed schedule coming up.
Although it'd be
Which
kind of fun. Plan on meeting up with one of our drivers, Tyler Vickery.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
So it'll be fun we've raced, we've chatted. He's been a guest on the show, so it'll be nice
And,
to finally meet him in person.
and yet I live 20 minutes from Mark Vickers and still haven't met him in person. we gotta end that streak. This is ridiculous. It's been 2.5 years now.
Yeah, kind of jumping into it on this. It's really fun the community that we've built up with
It,
FR Racing so far.
it
We've
really is.
gotten to meet some really cool people and actually met a handful of them in real life now and doing some different things. It's been really fun.
Yeah, so far the only one I've met in person was Eli before he moved actually up your way. I had lunch with him before he moved. Our old announcer from who's gone on to do some pretty cool things with
This is with what Williams Esports.
Williams. He's done some Williams Esports. He's in the EA Creators Series. He's done a lot of really cool things since. It's like, yeah, I got a really busy schedule. I'm like, get out of here. Like, what are you
Yeah,
doing
go do
wasting
that
your time?
stuff.
Yeah, what are you doing wasting your time with us? Go.
Uh, Wednesday night dash is on break. We actually just finished our second race of Indy Racing World Series. We were at
That
Barber
that
Motorsports.
was that was hard. That race was really difficult.
That track is fun, but it is a
It's
challenge.
And especially, the track temp was like what, 133 or something like
Yeah,
that.
I didn't realize it was going to be that hot. As I actually cooled down the ambient air temperature.
Yeah, the problem is when you do the ambient temperature, but it ends up being like completely clear, like it was, or mostly sunny.
Yeah, it cleared up.
It cleared up and that track turns into a sauna and it does, nothing sticks. I couldn't get that primary tire to stick for the life of me. And uh
It is weird. I felt better on the primary than the alternate. I think it's the only one in the field that felt that way.
You were the only one in the field that felt that way. You also started on the primary where almost
I
everybody
did.
else started on the alternate. I felt like it was at least in somewhat control with that alternate tire. But then I got clipped and I had to pit early to take my fast repair. And I switched to the primary and it was just like, I'm just like, this is like a ticking time bomb. And I went off track and it was one of those where like the wall or it's kind of back and then it kind of protrudes out just a little bit. And I caught the corner right head on. And that was the end of my night. And I hopped in the booth and we talked about CrowdStrike and the 24-hour spa race, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And yeah,
Yeah,
that was
congrats to Ian Miller on the win. We got a couple weeks off, and then we'll be back at Pocono,
yep,
the Tricky Triangle.
the tricky triangle indeed.
So I
And
wanted to kind of knock those out of the way because wow, what a weekend of racing. I think that's the only way to explain it.
yeah, I mean, starting from the top, you had Max Verstappen. I don't even know where to
Going
start.
flying
Yeah, he was having a bad day for his standards. I mean, he still finished what, fourth or fifth.
somehow with a car that flew.
Yeah, and I don't know how his car survived that. Um, And you knew this was going to happen because Max was up at like 3 a.m. local time in Hungary doing the 24-hour iRacing 24-hour spa race. And then David Crofty, was kind of ripping him for doing that and staying up late doing his sim racing and, kind of more. Crofty took some heat for his comments, but it's like, if Max would have went out there and ran away with it and won that race, everybody like, oh, that's amazing. He was up sim racing at 3 a.m. in Spa.
He
And
did that earlier in the season and
yeah,
just walked away with a race.
yeah. Like, it's like, okay, obviously Formula One pays the bills. It's what you're best known for. That's your primary series. But like, you're going to have off days. And I don't really feel that his sim racing is the reason why he was having some of the problems he was having this
No, I
weekend.
don't think so. If anything, maybe affect him by like 5%, but he's still so far up that a 5% off is still light years ahead of good 3/4 of that field.
Lewis Hamilton finishes on the podium again. Do you think he's starting to regret his move to Ferrari? Because Ferrari hasn't been.
Yeah, Ferrari hasn't been doing much. Mercedes has been coming on. Or is it just a result that Mercedes is kind of holding status quo and Red Bull is coming back to earth? Ferrari is not really progressing
Nope.
and it's just starting to level out.
Yeah, and you had to assume that was going to happen at some point.
I heard earlier questioning maybe Red Bull not improving or coming back is coincides with Newey departing.
I mean, he's still there. He's still working. It's not like he's been cut off from the workroom. I guess he was working on the hypercar too, which may have impacted some of that.
Yeah, that car looks so nice.
Oh man, unreal.
I want to see it actually go.
And
I haven't seen
then
it
eh, and then McLaren, man. Have you ever seen a more I don't know what the right word for it is.
Did McLaren and Ferrari switch like strategists and crews? Because they're basically doing what Ferrari did last few seasons.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, the difference is that McLaren came away 1-2. Um, that was
Yeah,
Lando
I had to
was
leave early, so I missed all of the excitement of the Formula One race because I left at lap 40.
I didn't closely watch it. I watched some of the drama, like post racer in the cool down room, and Lando's asked to give up his spot, which I'm still not fully.
Piastri was leading
Yeah.
and Lando was in second, but
Mhm.
they pit Lando first, which basically undercut.
Yeah.
And they said they were trying to defend against other drivers, but it didn't really make sense by the numbers.
I
And then
mean,
they,
Lewis was like what, 14 seconds back of them or something like that.
I didn't see what the final numbers
It
were.
wasn't close.
And then they asked Stroll, geez.
Yeah, I don't think they'd be
I've had
asking.
a long day
Yeah, hey,
so
Lance
far.
Stroll. He has finished on the podium, something that Nico Hulkenberg has never done.
Um, Lando Norris was asked to give back that position to Piastri, but Norris was faster. So
He had a 5-second lead and then had to give it up. And
and then you got Norris in a better spot for the overall championship. So not sure why you would give away points going for that.
mhm.
Then did you see the cooldown room? That
Yeah,
was
and Lando walks
bulky.
in and throws the hat on the ground.
Yeah, dumps the hat.
And Luke,
Hamilton's trying to be like, you guys are fast. And like, you were fast 7 years ago.
yeah, he's like, you weren't even here 7 years ago. Like Lewis was trying to like diffuse the. He could see it. He's a pro. He's a mature, closing in on it, 40 years old.
You gotta feel bad for Oscar. He's on the podium and his teammate doesn't even go to him.
Yeah, that was really. crappy.
I got a little bit more respect for Hamilton because he was trying to celebrate with Piastri. Not a big Hamilton fan, but I do like what he was doing. It does show
I
class among
I mean,
the drivers
Lewis
with
is,
that.
some of his complaining sometimes gets a little tiring, but I mean, can you really name any kind of top tier athlete or race car driver that doesn't complain when they're not winning or things aren't going right?
Yeah, I mean everybody does.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
That is good to see that from him.
it is kind of crazy that like we are the same age as Lewis Hamilton.
Yes, and we have not been knighted.
No, I have not. Yeah, well, we can't be
Yeah, we're
knighted,
not
but
English.
there is some award that they can give to you that's like the equivalent of knighting if you're not British, but like don't see that happening.
No. So yeah, kind of wild weekend in Hungary.
Yeah, that was.
I think we have what, one more race before the break,
Yep, heading to Spa.
and then it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that Red Bull 2 seat.
Hey, Checo worked his way back into the points this week. So after
He was what, seventh?
I think finished seventh, but he wrecked in Q1. He started like what 17th or something like
Yeah.
that. So I mean, good for him. That was a good recovery. Granted, he can't be doing stuff like that in the first place, but
No, he needs to be making Q3 and being in that like top five. Because McLaren is catching very quickly.
unreal. And McLaren is now overtaken Red Bull in several odds makers around the world for favorite to win the constructors. But
In little over a year where McLaren started the
we were
2023
making we
season,
were making fun of them for how
they were
bad they were.
bad. But then it was about halfway through, they started like
Something
eking
clicked.
out those ninth and 10th places. Then the last few races of last year, they were hitting
Right.
podiums and double podiums,
They were right up there.
and
Yeah. I
they
mean,
are
we were
right there.
we were making fun of him. Like, look, it's they show Zach Brown as Lando and Piastri were fighting for 18th, and we're like, is Piastri going to get himself? And the second half, he really turned it on, and now he's
Yeah, and it wasn't like we did that
where
off of
where
just a single race. It was multiple races to start the season that they were essentially the back markers.
forget points. Where would you rank Piastri right now? The 20 drivers. Where would you rank Piastri?
I think he's a top five, top six.
I'd probably put him fifth or sixth. I mean,
So
Max is
Max is up
clearly
there,
number
Lando's
one.
up there. I'd
I mean,
still maybe put Lewis and Russell.
yeah.
Um, I, I think if everything is equal, Leclerc and Sainz are right there.
Mhm.
And I think it's still an equipment thing, but I think I'd even put Checo right there.
Yeah,
I think we've talked about it before. I think the car is built around Verstappen, and it
mhm.
just does not fit Checo's driving style.
That's correct. Agreed.
So I think it's as much on the team as it is on Checo. But I think right as of now, I think Max is still number one. Lando's maybe a number two. But the rest of those guys are all like a 3A, 3B, 3C,
Mhm.
3D.
Oh yeah, I would
I
agree
think
with
they're
that.
all pretty close.
And yet Carlos Sainz still hasn't found a job yet.
No,
I
Mercedes is maybe kind of jumping back into the mix.
I
Williams is still
think
there. It's a
uh
mess with that.
yeah, and honestly, like I get this vibe, and I don't have any insider sources, but I kind of get this vibe that Mercedes still, it's not really a secret. They want Max.
They do.
And they're kind of holding out that maybe Max gets finally fed up and bolts, which at this point, I don't know contractually like what it would take for him to break his contract, if that's even possible at this point.
He
But
just needs to ask Alex Palou how he does it.
yeah, I mean, Alex Palou getting sued by McLaren, having been dropped by his publicist, but it's like Mercedes is like secretly like, I want Max, but if Max isn't an option, I'm good with Sainz.
And he was frustrated again with his car. I wonder if it is issues in the car or he's just that in touch and it's just like a millimeter off and he can tell, or it was just a bad day and he was not a good driver that day.
You see, I guess the teams have been pushing for to change the point system to the top 12 get points instead of the top 10, but I guess that got nixed.
Yeah, it'd actually be nice to see all drivers score points.
Yeah, I always thought
It
that was
wouldn't
kind of
really
weird
change
that
anything, but
half the field gets zero. Anyway,
yeah,
beat
Formula
that.
One, it's a soap
That's
opera.
it
uh,
is a soap opera.
this
It's
year.
like you don't need Drive to Survive. We just watch it. Just watch it. Just read the news. That's soap opera enough.
We
So we've
should put it
got
on daytime with Days of Our Lives and Young and Restless. About the
General
same.
Hospital.
Where should we go next? Indy?
Yeah, Indy was next on the calendar. But man,
I
with
did not
the
get to watch.
I didn't I watched a little bit of it. I saw the first incident. Ferrucci, didn't he turn himself up? Not he wasn't the first though, but he ended up upside down, didn't he?
Yeah, he tried to do his
Usual
Ross
shenanigans.
Chastain wall ride.
It's
I don't
just
know if it was like a spotter thing that they couldn't see as they were coming around the right hander. Who was it? A Ward had already gotten turned around. Then Ericsson went into it. Then you see more cars just come through, no idea because it's a blind turn right there, as it is a street course, and you get the rails and those cars sit foot off the ground.
so
And
they made a big deal that the top three were Honda. Did you know though the top seven were Honda?
Mhm.
They put out a graphic that said, top seven for Honda, and it had like each of the drivers like lined up next to each other. Like that's pretty lopsided there.
well, the Chevys like took themselves out.
Yes, they did.
Is with that one crash, Ferrucci goes up and over the front wing, kind of wall rides with the tires on the wall and ends up upside down. Then you get, was it Siegel?
Yay.
Kind of took
Yes.
off the front end of his car, all in the same incident. Then Power kind of hip check
Oh, and
McLaughlin or something.
don't forget the other big news of the
Yep.
Indy weekend.
Then McLaren, we talk about them a lot on the show apparently. Fired a driver earlier this season
No, it
after
was only a couple weeks ago. Like
what one race
I was about to say, how many drivers have they gone through this year? I've lost track
and
already.
fired Theo Porcher in favor of Nolan Siegel. And then
Then Rossi
in
breaks his thumb.
practice, Alex Rossi breaks his thumb. Just had surgery. Hopefully he heals quick and gets back to the car.
Yeah, it said the surgery went well, so they think he might actually be back in the car for the next race.
Wow.
But I mean, there's a couple weeks. They're off for a few
So
weeks because of the Olympic break.
they call up Theo Porcher, who had just finished ripping McLaren.
Yeah, you know what? I
Like,
said that.
hey, come drive for us.
I said that in our Discord. Someone was saying, "Who's going to fill in?" I said, "Well, I would say it was Pourchaire, but he just ripped his firing from McLaren to the press earlier this week, so that probably burnt that bridge." And then, like 6 hours later, Pourchaire is on a flight to Toronto right now to
Wasn't he
drive for.
like in France and hadn't been in a car?
Had to go to
First time on the
Germany.
track.
He had to learn the track as he went and get changed at the airport.
I will say, social media, McLaren's at least making fun of themselves. They had a picture of David Malukas, Theo Porcher, Nolan Siegel,
Doing the
cut out
Spider
of
Man.
Callum Ilott.
Yeah,
So
doing
at least
the
they can
Spider
make
Man
fun of
pointing at each other.
themselves because they know how it looks and what people are saying.
That's just
It was really
absurd.
funny to see them all in the papaya, and then you get Malukas in the pink and white. He had a great run, sixth place.
Yeah, good for him. That was
And
probably his best road course finish, I think. One of his best.
Colton Herta getting on the podium for the win.
Yeah, good for him. That was his first win
Finally put
since
together a
Indy.
run. Yeah. He's up there, but just overdrives and makes
Just,
mistakes that take him
just
out.
over aggressive.
I'd say Road America is more Newgarden giving him payback for Long Beach, but it's good to see him get a win again. That should help out Andretti. They've been kind of struggling.
So yeah, and this was on Peacock exclusively this weekend, so I'm sure all 50,000 people watched it.
Yeah, and NASCAR, IndyCar, they are now on break for what, 3 weeks?
About 3 weeks, yeah. I think they're back the 10th in Richmond for
A little
NASCAR.
disappointed that because NBC covers the Olympics
They
and
just
use all their channels, they can just tell two other major series,
they
go,
just
hey,
just
sorry,
go down, shut it down.
you have to stop. I don't necessarily agree with that. I
That
think it's
drives me
something that they
nuts.
need to figure out because that's not right.
What are we gonna do for like? I mean, we got Formula One this weekend, but after
Yeah,
that,
well,
like, what do we do for like 2 weeks?
I guess it works that we have a week off this upcoming week, and
Yeah,
then we can cover some Formula One and prep
my
for.
wife will be thrilled that I won't be hogging the TV all Sunday. But
We can talk about the playoff chase with 4 races remaining in
what
NASCAR.
what really drives my wife nuts is when you have the Formula One, Indy, and NASCAR all on a Sunday. So I'm like up watching at like the end of the race at like 7 a.m. Pacific, and then the Indy race starts like right after that. Then I'm flipping over to the NASCAR, and she's like, "Good God, can't you watch something else?" No,
No,
no.
no, I'm assuming I get yelled at too.
She asked me. She goes, "Does Eric's wife get mad at him for doing that?" I'm like, I don't know. Probably.
I pick and choose some of the races. Like if it seems like it's going to be like a boring cup race, like, I don't care. I'll just catch
I
highlights.
see. And what I'll do in that case is I will pull up the tablet and I'll pull Hulu up on the tablet. And like, look, you want to go watch your whatever, your 100-day house remodel or whatever you want to watch, go for it. I will watch
Some
on
of
the tablet.
the, especially NASCAR races, I'll catch like the last 20 laps because the first two probably are just running green
Yeah,
at
it's just
a
it's
parade. I'll watch the last few and catch the 5 overtimes and know all I need to.
and then listen to Ryan Blaney throw a fit about Kyle Larson.
And then if I'll catch highlights of Denny Hamlin's podcast, and if there was anything major, he'll be talking about it. And that's how I can get my news on NASCAR. And IndyCar only runs 17 races, so
Yeah,
it's
it's
not very often.
not the 36 that we deal with at NASCAR. That's kind of crazy. Well, and the other thing too is Indy runs only 17. They're done by like mid-September. NASCAR is into November. They run 36 races. Formula One does what, 24?
The 24, 26 this
Yeah,
year.
something like that. But they're done in the first week of December.
But they also take like massive breaks.
Yeah, they take that big chunk and well, after this week, they're off for like 3 or 4 weeks before they're back into the
And
run.
some races are taking 2 and 3 weeks off between, and they just draw out their schedules so long.
Well, and on top of that, I mean, it's logistically moving multiple cars and parts and people and all around the world. Yeah, they
Because
talk about
IndyCar, they pop up in the Toronto, which is basically Detroit and northern US. It's still a few hour drive, but
but the thing is, like, Formula One's making this big deal about net zero 2030. It's like maybe you could start with your schedule.
let's keep everything regional.
Yeah, let's just like it's like I get like okay, Monaco and end of May, like
Do
whatever.
your North American tour all at the same time.
But
Do all
it's
three
like, all right,
races.
we're yeah, but the thing is, like, you can't do Miami in the fall because you're at risk of a hurricane if they do it in the fall.
And
But
it's
then,
if it's in the fall, you also have the Dolphins.
yeah, right. And so that won't work. But then on top of that, like, then you go and you get Las Vegas, you get this time off. They go to Las Vegas and then they're going to go halfway around the world for the next week.
Yeah, they have such a crazy schedule.
It's just, I don't understand how, like, people, I mean, you understand, like, Nico Rosberg just calling it quits. Like I won the championship. You know, he called it quits when he was like what 33 or something like that.
Yeah, he's young, still in his
Yeah,
prime.
he cut it early. He's like, I'm done with this crap. I mean, that wasn't his exact quote, but it's just like, you know, a lot of these. I mean, it's you understand why a lot of these guys don't have families or they don't start families until later because you're gone from like February to December.
Yeah, it's a very long, stretched out season. Even like the Cup series, it's long, but it's all in the States.
Yeah,
And they can go home
and they
for
do,
4 or 5 days.
which that's also kind of weird where you have like Vegas and Phoenix in the spring, but they're sending the haulers back to North Carolina after Vegas and sending them back out to Phoenix. It's like, can't we like, I mean, I get there's stuff to do, but good Lord, like you want to talk about cost savings, running a hauler from North Carolina to Las Vegas, back to North Carolina, back to Phoenix, back to North Carolina again.
Yeah, some stretches they will have like kind of basic trailers that they'll load up 2 to 4 cars in and switch out, take out like their road course and take it back to North Carolina and bring out their like super speedway car or something to have it there. So they will switch out some cars on the road, but they do a lot of back and forth.
So today I was one of my kids was messing around with my I saw in the background, but messing around with my GT40 here. And uh they said she goes, there's two seats in this car. I go, yeah, there's two seats in this car. And it blew her mind because the wheel and pedals are on the right side. I'm like, yeah, they drive this thing in an event called Le Mans. And they race for 24 hours and you know a full day. They do a 24-hour race in this car. They switch out drivers. They just drive for 24 hours straight if the car can survive it. And just like blew her mind. Like it's like we go to these races that last like 2.5, 3 hours, and like, yep, this one lasts 24 hours. And just yeah, it's just funny explaining that to kids. They ask questions like that.
And the whole reason I didn't get to watch the end of Formula One and I missed all of IndyCar, it
Yes.
was the return to the oval for the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis.
Did they announce what the attendance was?
Um, NASCAR won't give out numbers.
Yeah.
The projected I saw was 80 to 100,000. I can believe that number.
Let's see what they're saying.
Based on what I saw, a lot of the sections were closed off. And there's a fair number of people there. And even though on TV it may look pretty sparse,
I mean, it's a huge facility.
it is such a massive
Like
facility.
it seats 250,000 people.
In a sold out Indy 500, you'll have 350, 375,000 range.
Indy Stars reporting about 70,000 for Sunday.
Yeah,
Which,
that would make sense.
but I mean, you look at it like a Phoenix Raceway. I don't think they even seat 50 anymore.
And 70,000 for a NASCAR race is still a massive crowd.
Yeah, it's just because it's in a place that seats 250,000. It looks tiny.
Yeah, and they kept all the seats basically to turn 4 through turn 1. And then I think they had seating over in the turn 2.
Yeah, so Phoenix Raceway seating capacity is 42,000.
Yeah, so we almost
reference.
doubled what the championship race will hold.
But hey, you know.
It was so funny at the track. They're talking about there's such great energy and all that, and like, no.
So Hunter Hughes
It's
posted
such a different vibe.
Yeah,
Having just been there for the 500, and then I made the trifecta this year. I got the Indy Road Race, the 500, and the Brickyard.
Hunter posted some videos because he was sitting in turn 1. For them coming to the green flag, it seemed awfully quiet in the stands. I mean, I've been to, well,
My section was pretty noisy.
Yeah, I mean the
I was
under
down in
the
4.
I've sat in turn 4 before for the oval race years ago.
It was kind of really funny. Bubba Wallace, lots of booze.
I'm not surprised
Kyle
about that.
Busch, lots of booze.
Yeah,
Denny Hamlin, lots of booze. Joey
yeah,
Logano probably got booed more than Hamlin.
really. One of the
Then
Penskes gets booed more than
at least the section I was in. And
who? Who was
what's
the fan?
funny, as we were getting towards the end, they're like, who do you want to see win? Tyler Reddick, like 2 people cheered. Ryan Blaney, handful of people cheered. Who else is up front? Maybe they were saying Keselowski. I forget the driver. Got a couple cheers. Kyle Larson, like it got loud.
Yeah, he's a fan favorite in Indianapolis this year.
Yeah, he had a big support crowd at
Yeah,
Indy.
yeah, he really won over that city this year. He's
Mhm.
the big winner of Indianapolis, regardless of how he finished in May. But
I think it
uh,
was kind of cool. They worked out a deal, and with McLaren, he got to run his Coca-Cola 600 livery that he wasn't able to get in. So it was kind of fun to see it at the Brickyard when it's supposed to
yeah,
be in
yeah,
Charlotte.
I thought that was really cool.
So I thought that was a really cool moment for that.
And you sat next to somebody or near, very close to somebody that we both know.
Yeah, and get to see your brother.
You saw my brother. Yeah, my brother and he got tickets last minute, and he texted me a ticket.
Yeah, me too. I
Yeah,
got him on Wednesday of the
yeah, he got
race.
his last minute. He texted me his ticket, and I said, "Oh, my brother's going. He's sitting turn 4. You were in like section 8, row double A, and you're like, I'm in section 8, row like what were you Y or something like that?
W.
W. I'm like you're like 5 or 6 rows
And
in
it
front of him.
count like row A is at the bottom closest to a track and goes X, Y, Z, double A, double B, double C.
So you were literally like 5 or 6 rows in front of my brother, almost
Yeah, you
exactly.
put in I think Discord, who's going to the Brickyard? Hunter said he was going. I'm like, I'm Northwest Vista in turn 4. Then you messaged me like, my brother's in section 8. Yeah, me too. And then we figure out like only the
Hey,
second best I've ever had at Indianapolis. Not quite as good as when our friends sat
yeah,
the
directly
immediate
in front of
row
us,
in seats in front of us.
directly in front of us. He was like texting me. He's like, "Yeah, I just saw Erik," and he, you two took a picture together.
Yeah, he's like,
And
yeah, we need to take a picture and send it to DJ.
yeah, so he sent the picture to my parents, and my parents are like, "Who's that?" Like,
It has been a while.
what? I'm like,
I don't think I've seen your
that
parents
just shows
since
you that my parents
your
don't
wedding.
watch. Yeah, my parents don't watch the show. I mean,
But that red flag worked out perfect. Was able to jump up there, not get in anybody's way to interrupt the racing, and got to chat with him for a little bit. So that was really fun. It was
he
good
was
to see him.
he had never been to a NASCAR race before this weekend, and he was texting me throughout the race. He's like, "Man, this is awesome!" And him and his friend were buying tickets to the Michigan race here in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
They're going to drive up for that. And then he's like, "Are you going to go to the championship race?" He goes, "I'll fly out for that." I'm like, "We're going on Saturday. Like, we already got our tickets. Like, we're season ticket holders."
Yeah, he had
And
a lot of fun. That was awesome.
yeah, yeah. And he's like, "Who should I be rooting for?" I'm like, "I don't know, Ricky Bobby." So then I don't know why he was he was cheering for BJ McLeod because he was like 30 seconds behind everybody else, and cheering for him because he felt bad for him. And then for some reason, I don't know why, he started cheering for Erik Jones. And I said, "Well, I do know somebody that works for his team, actually."
Yeah, he had a rough day.
Yeah, yeah. I said, "Hey, I'm like, if I said, I'm sure I could probably like, hey, can brother was cheering for your driver. Can you send him a hero card or something?"
The Dollar Tree car. They are not hurting for money if they can
No.
sponsor a cup car.
Yeah, yeah, yes, indeed. But
So maybe that $1.25 that they moved their prices to wasn't needed.
well, it was needed to pay for Erik Jones's car.
Yeah, that's what I laughed at. 'Cause a lot of people wouldn't put two and two together as they don't watch NASCAR and stuff. I'm like, yeah, they needed that pay
Well,
raise.
it's yeah, it's funny too. Like with all the sponsorship that you see nowadays, where in soccer you've got the soccer jerseys that have the sponsorship on the chest, and the NHL has the patches, the NBA has the patches, and you look at some of these companies and they're like, you're not doing great financially. How much are you spending on that patch? And that, like the soccer team here in Phoenix in the USL, their primary shirt sponsor is Carvana. Carvana is not doing great. Like they laid off a bunch of people, but they're still year after year. Like they signed this long-term deal to be the shirt sponsor.
I think you hit mute. So technical difficulties. DJ hit his mute button and
Oops.
we can't hear him. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
there it
there
is.
we go. Oops. I don't know when I did. I don't know when I did that. But I was saying how like you see these companies that are like struggling and they're still sponsoring. I got the Carvana. I think. Did you hear that before I muted about Carvana?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had a car at the Brickyard for
It,
Jimmy.
yeah, yeah. So it's like they're sponsoring Jimmy, they're sponsoring soccer, but they're like laid off half their staff. It's like bad optics, bad optics.
Yeah, perspective.
But it's not cheap to sponsor a cup car.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
You do get a lot of
We
exposure, but you got to turn that exposure into revenue.
I mean, what they say about sponsoring a race car, the best two people to sponsor are the ones who win and the ones who wreck.
hmm If you're running at the back and keep it clean, you don't get it seen.
You're never going to see your car. You got to eat it, and you got to be good highlight, and that's how you get seen if you're not going to be up front.
No, unfortunately, a couple of the best sponsorships this year have been Kyle Busch and John Hunter Nemechek.
So Kyle,
Both
but
seem to be involved in a wreck every single week,
yeah,
literally. And they did it again this weekend.
there was a meme I saw about Kyle Busch and says Kyle Busch visiting the medical unit again, the medical care center again. Like, oh, you're back again.
Wonder if it's to the point yet where he's gonna buy him Christmas gifts because he's gotten to know him so well.
Yeah, not exactly people you want to get to know like super well, but
No, a couple little controversies from that race.
yeah,
Or I'll backtrack. Stage one, stage two, boring. It was a parade. They just drove. There were a few passes, but
trying to figure things out.
yep. Stage three picked up. I will say Josh Berry though came to a stop almost like right in front of us.
Yeah, I was a little upset about that. I I I posted my thoughts about that to threat. Yeah, he was the one who was the stuck on the side when they waited till after Larson took the white flag.
No, that was Ryan
Oh,
Priest.
that was Priest. Yeah, whatever.
Barry got
Same team.
spun with cars checking up on the Kyle Busch and
That's right. That's right.
I think Denny Hamlin.
Yeah. So Priest in overtime was off the track, but it's like you can't run. They like I don't think I ever heard a formal explanation, but NASCAR was like, oh, we gave him every chance to get going again. And like you knew he wasn't gonna go.
Even
And
from where we were, we had a screen and we saw the smoke and you see it spin. Everybody's like, oh, no, they're caution. And you could see the tires are flat on the car. And then he's out of gas. It's like, dude was not ever moving.
yeah,
And he
like
got the car moved to half of it being on the track.
and it's just like you knew that was gonna happen watching this on TV. And I
Such
took
a terrible excuse from NASCAR.
I vented my frustration on threads, which I can't say I've ever done that before. Very rarely do I vent my frustration social media, but that I couldn't shut up. And part of the fact was I had like 5 White Claws in the pool that afternoon, which may have contributed to my, the filter was down a little bit. I'm usually
I
pretty restrained, but
I think even the Kyle Larson fans that were at Indy were disappointed that there was not a caution flag thrown.
yeah, that it felt. I said that was totally. I'm ready to go home. Caution.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys listen, you know I'm a Hendrick fan and I like all the drivers there. So I was happy to see Larson win, but not that way.
No, and
I wanted to see
Blaney
that
with
last lap race because Reddick was charging too.
and you had Keselowski who was the control. He was the control car, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Or
so that whole situation set up that bad white flag, caution flag setup. They're coming to take the green flag to restart what second overtime or first overtime. Keselowski pulls off
last
as
second
the
too.
pace car pulls off.
He
So,
followed the pace car in basically.
yep. And so the cars in row are allowed to move up, but that also meant Kyle Larson went from third to a quasi first because of the track. The
Yep.
inside groove was the preferred. You did not want to be outside. And as he was moving, he was slightly faster, but I guess telemetry shows he did fire off just after identical time as Blaney, who would be the control car.
Yep.
But unfortunately, in the not preferred line, and when you're a mile an hour faster, it just compounds the rest of the way.
Yep.
And even if he was equal speed inside line, he's going to win it probably 95 times out of 100.
Mm-hmm.
If not turn one, by the end of turn two, he's got it. So Blaney was not happy with that
No,
call.
he was not.
But Indianapolis, as we found, is a single groove track, but it does run very similar, I think, to how the IndyCars do. You need to set up your turn one and turn three. And if you can back it up right, start getting that momentum going into 2 and 4, you can get the run down the backstretch and get to the inside bumper of that car, and you're going to have the line.
And on that
Which,
note, you go back to the Xfinity race on Saturday. They're the complete opposite. You had an amazing finish with
yeah, you had 3
Riley.
cars within 0.2 of a second.
Riley Herbst, who's really improved a lot in the last couple of years. He has really, really gotten. Because a few years ago, watching him out there, it's like, oh, because his family has a racing history. He's got the Monster sponsorship following him around, which always nice to have Monster in your back pocket. He's got the Monster and the Ford support. And, it's again, when if you're in racing and you have Monster and Ford following you around, you're probably, you're going to be okay as long as you're semi-competent.
That turn 4, he drove some elbows out and stuck it.
Don't know how, but he did. It was
Jeez.
just great run by him. Really nice
Monster
guy too.
return.
Another nice guy. We've had the chance to meet briefly. It's so weird that I've met like 75% of the regular Xfinity lineup, maybe a little bit more than that.
That is cool though.
Even Austin Hill, who takes a lot of crap, still really nice, really good with the fans. I mean, you look at Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch, we know Kyle Busch. We know his reputation. We know it when he gets mad and frustrated. But Kyle Busch has always been great to his fans, and that's why so many people love him. But yeah, same with Austin Hill. He was good dude, good to the kids. So like, hey, you know what?
So, final take. What did you think of the return to the oval with the next gen or Gen 7 car, or however you want to term it now?
It's been like everything else with the next gen is like they're figuring it out as they go. And it's like, I guess, with a newer car, that's going to happen to an extent, but I feel like this is way worse.
Overall, I just don't think the car is good.
It looks
It's
good.
still missing something.
It looks good. They're good looking cars. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
They're really good looking cars. I mean, they're yeah. You don't look at the next gen and be like, wow, that's a really dumb spoiler on the back, like you did with the COT back in the day. But yeah, they yeah.
I may go against some opinions, but I think it should go back.
Go back to the Gen 6.
No, go back to Indy. I think it needs to stay there. I've seen stuff out there saying that they just need to take Indy off the schedule.
I mean,
I think is
if
a
you're getting
good
70,
race.
80,000 people to that event,
You can't
it
not.
you can't. Like you can't do that. I mean, you look at some of these other tracks on the schedule, it's there's a reason why NASCAR doesn't announce their attendance because some of those tracks, there's a lot of open seats and they don't have high capacities.
Now, it did kind of just come to me. It makes sense how Kyle Larson was able to do what he did. And it's the assessment that I saw kind of watching it. It was a single file race, but if you timed your turns right, you would get the run down the stretches. What did Kyle Larson spend the month of May practicing?
That
Different cars, different speeds, but he was doing the exact
mhm.
same thing. He was backing up his turns, getting the run, and he was having massive runs off of turn two and turn four every single stretch.
Yep.
And he would close down a gap and just drive right into it. So
I
I
didn't
think
really think
he
about it that way
learned
until you
how to drive Indy.
I didn't think about it that way, but now it's like, oh yeah, he
And
had a major. I mean, they've had tests track on the track. You've seen various drivers out there, but
yeah,
yeah, I mean, he had the advantage.
he had 497 and a half miles to practice.
Plus all the testing in the
All
month
this
of
to
May, the rookie
practice.
orientation, all the testing before that.
He had a leg up on the competition, and
He
I
certainly did.
think it is exclusively due to that. I think it's a different outcome if he doesn't run the 500.
I think you are right. That's a really good observation.
I haven't seen anybody else mention that yet. Maybe
Yep.
I could be the first.
Yeah, yeah, you got it. So that's your take. That's your hot take. It's a good one. I think it's a good one.
I think it's a fair and logical thing to come to. I may be totally off base, but at least to me, it makes sense. And you know what? I'll take it.
All
It'll be
right.
fun to see how it goes next year.
Yeah, I think they'll be back at the Oval.
They should. It was boring the first couple parts, but I think they figured it out. They know what to do on the restarts. Those were exciting. But
Just
please go
fortunately,
back.
it took a race to figure. Like it took 2/3 of a race to figure it out.
Yep.
All righty then. So we got some time off. You're going to be all over the place.
Yeah, I'm all over. I'm in Florida. I'm moving. Who knows what's going on next couple weeks here.
Yeah, well, still got your stuff on the wall. You better start pulling that stuff down.
Yeah, that's tomorrow.
Oh, jeez.
I had to keep my studio set up for at least one more night.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to record for that. So I'm yeah, so I got a lot of stuff working on. I've been sending you and Taka a bunch of messages like, hey, look at this, look at what I've been working on here. And but once you're settled, we got to get back to work. We got a lot, we got a
Yes.
lot to work on that we're haven't announced most of it, but we've got a lot of stuff in the works that
We got some fun stuff coming up that we're gonna start leaking and spilling the beans on.
yep, and got Wednesday Night Dash coming back in a few weeks. So I got to get. So if you want to race with us, $40 entry fee. There's a prize pool. I think the winning driver took home like $130 or something like that.
It's
So
not too bad for an hour, 10 times.
times 10, yeah. So that's
And you
coming
have
up.
fun doing it.
Yeah, we got a really good group, and we got some endurance racing coming up at the end of the month. 90-minute Indy session on the 31st of August, I think. Sounds about
Yeah,
right.
got a little bit of time on that.
So we got that. Uh Indy Racing World Series is off till what, 13th? now?
10th, 13th, whatever that Tuesday is
I
in
think it's the
a couple
13th because
weeks.
it's the day before Wednesday Night Dash debuts again.
Yeah, 13th makes sense.
So we got some downtime for a couple weeks and probably no show next week. Gotta do
Yeah,
something special for 100 coming up.
gives us 2 weeks to get that plan in place.
Maybe I'll buy some. Actually, when Kate and I recorded our 100th episode of the Stadium Scene main event show, which is funny because we only made it to like 109 episodes. So hopefully we don't have the same fate. But there was drastically different circumstances there.
I will be stubborn. We will make 110 no matter what.
uh yeah, we've Stadium Scene's main event actually has recorded one show in the last like 17, 18 months, and we may do an annual or a quarterly show. But anyway, we get to episode 100. She bought these like gold mylar balloons, and it was 100, and she like hung them in the back of the room, and it was like a birthday party. Actually, for the 100th episode, I wore a suit. We won't be doing that. No suit for episode 100.
It's got to be a wedding or a funeral for me to wear a suit.
And it only depends on who it is. I I have this actually with weddings, and it's not, like sometimes it's like, oh, I go to a wedding and I don't want to be there. I did go to a wedding once that I didn't want to be at, and so I wore all black. Wore a black suit with a black shirt and a black tie. So like, you going to a funeral? I'm like, yeah, only of my soul going to this wedding.
I had my own wedding. I got to wear shorts, so if that tells you anything.
Yeah, that's about sums it up for you. But my favorite thing to do for a wedding though is I've got I have a fedora and a pair of black sunglasses, and I'll do the black suit, white shirt, black tie, sunglasses, fedora, and I will go as the Blues Brothers. And I will sit in the church with the fedora and the sunglasses on, depending on who it is.
I have been known to wear hats to weddings. I will take it off during the ceremony.
I actually went to a wedding once where I did the Blues Brothers look, and I had never met the bride's parents before. I'm friends with the bride for years. Never met her parents. And we were on our way out, and they had the receiving line, and I had the Blues, I did the Blues Brothers look, and on the way out, and she goes, I'm going to guess you're DJ.
Yep.
It's just like, yeah. It's guilty.
Well, there you have it. Episode 99. We actually talked more racing this time than random shenanigans.
John Miles messaged me, goes, that college stuff that you guys did last time was hilarious. I'm like, all right. Appreciate it,
somebody
John.
liked it.
Yeah, John's like, hey, you need a filler 1 week. I'll come on. I'm like, sounds good. We'll get you on. So
let us know when you're available. We'll get you on.
Yeah, absolutely. I said, yep, we will get you on the show. So Indy Racing World Series will prorate you in.
Yep.
Wednesday Night Dash, we are recruiting now. We've got maybe 6 spots open. So don't wait. Get in now.
Xfinity.
Good. I think it's a good schedule. So thanks for watching, and we will see you in a couple weeks for episode 100.
We'll see you then. Take care.